Sometimes I like to win here and then see if I can beat the defensive tackle, and usually I don't, but sometimes it's fun to do. This video is an update on the defensive line user rush technique that I posted a while back. In that video, I showed how powerful the club or swim move can be in splitting double teams, allowing you to get to the quarterback quickly and consistently while keeping 8 defenders in coverage, defending the run, and containing the quarterback scramble. One of the main issues with that technique was the blocking running back, who would pick you up once you got past the defensive line. In this video, we'll go over a new technique that allows you to bypass the blocked running back with a 2-man user rush that I call club and scrub. So that even with 3 rushers against 6 or 7 or more blockers, you are getting after the quarterback all game long. But before we get into that, I want to announce that I have a new channel membership that you can join. You probably already see the button below now. There you can find a full defensive scheme based partly on the user rush in this video, but it goes much deeper than that. I call it the too high over right defense, which features different cover 4, cover 2, and man coverages that all look the same, but allow you to adapt to anything the offense throws your way. I go over more user rush tricks, run fits, and all of the different coverage adjustments in one concise and digestible package. But that's just the first video. In general, the membership will be for the types of videos that I'm interested in making but aren't really well suited for public videos. Things like full schemes, deep dives into game mechanics, and just general free-form discussions about Madden and football. So if you're crazy enough about this game and want to understand every little inch of it, get every little advantage that you can for about the price of a cafe latte each month, you can get those videos as they come. But either way, let's now get into the 2-man club and scrub user rush. Right here we're in 4-3 normal, but it doesn't really matter too much what formation. You just want to make sure that there's a defensive lineman that's in the A gap or one technique. 4-3 normal or any of the nickel normals or big nickel over G's, we'll all have that, but for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of the coverage that I'll be mostly talking about in the defensive scheme, we'll be going over that here. So we'll just go, doesn't matter which coverage, you can go cover 2, show 4, which is nice. And then on offense, doesn't matter, but for the sake of the popularity of the formation, we'll go gun bunch, and we might as well just go with Z spot and go for now, but we'll block the running back later. So the basic technique that this all stems from is using the club or swim move as soon as you engage with the offensive lineman, and for whatever reason, it seems to be more effective when you're doing it against a double team. So if you are the one technique right here, I put in Myles Garrett right here. Once you snap here, you just flick the right stick either left or right, and then you go right at the quarterback, and it's a consistent sack a lot of the times. Now, I mean, the sack isn't as consistent because some people will see that and then throw a quick throw, but the getting past the offensive line really is no problem. In terms of like abilities, you don't need any special abilities to do this. You just need a decent pass rusher. If you're in Madden Ultimate Team, it's very, very, very easy to obtain those guys. Now you'll want, of course, the fastest guy you can get, because once you split that double team, you're going to want to get to the quarterback as soon as you can. But other than that, there isn't really too much to consider with that guy. Again, the abilities aren't absolutely necessary, but there are some that can give you a few perks, like strip specialist is something good that you can use once you get to the quarterback. If you try to strip them, there's a very, very high chance that you'll take the ball right out of their hands. Under pressure was toned down throughout this year, but it's still effective in some areas. And then I also like the buy one, get one free ability, or BOGO, which allows you to essentially spend an extra pass rush move. Because depending on if you have a blocked running back or there are some funky adjustments from the offense, sometimes you do end up spending another pass rush point or two. in which case we don't want to drain that meter all the way down. Now that meter isn't super necessary. Like if I have a full pass rush meter right here above Garrett, these green bars, I believe there's nothing really difference between that and having only 1 or 2 or 3, other than the fact that if you have 1 and you try to use multiple moves per down, you won't be able to use those multiple moves. But that's really specific. It might not even be necessary, but something I throw on there anyway, just because it's only 1 AP. The other thing to note before we get into some of the technique stuff is that if you're coming up against somebody that has post up on the center, which doesn't happen often, but often enough to bring it up here, you're not going to win ever. So I'll get into that briefly at the end of the video. You can work on the outside shoulder of the guard to avoid them. But by and large, you're going to be coming up against guys that aren't putting post up, and you're just going to be blowing right past their center and guard all game long. You can also do it flipped to the right side as well. I think it's about the same effectiveness. I think maybe just I'm so used to doing it on the left side that I'm not as good on the right side. And then you can also do it like say if this defensive end is out and you get a double team on the tackle and the guard, you can do it, but I feel like in game, for whatever reason, it's not as effective. So just to keep everything really simple, really just pick the guy in the A gap, one technique, either on the left or right. And again, all you need to do is once they snap it, and once you engage with those guys, you're flicking left or right on that stick, and then you go after the quarterback. So one thing I should say is that you really got to be patient on using your user rush move. At the beginning, when I was getting the timing of this all down, I was really eager to get the rush move off and get to the quarterback. But if you do it too early, it's not going to work out for you. So just make sure that you engage with those guys and then do your rush move, and then it'll be almost 100% certain that you get through on them. The other thing is those resistance bars underneath the guard and the center. I don't think they really do anything. At least in this case, they can be full resistance inside there, and you'll be totally fine. So you can keep that in mind. And then just in terms of a defensive scheme, I mean, the members video will definitely be going over the full setup of things. But the general idea is that sure, you're losing a user cover guy, but for the scheme here is that we're trying to keep everything the same in terms of the look, this too high over structure, but we are changing a lot of the coverages on the back end. Plus, of course, you can switch between. You don't have to user rush every single down, or you can just bring it in on 3rd or 4th downs and user your guy on other downs. You can switch those up and not tip anything off to your opponent unless they have identifier or something like that. So that's just what to consider on the back end. Yeah, you're losing that cover guy, but we are gaining really consistent pressure of the quarterback, and that really adds up in the end, where it's hard to get those throws off in time every single down. And in the end, your opponent just throws a lot of interceptions. One thing I should say is that if you are like me, and once you beat the defensive line, you're going after the quarterback. If they're a little bit mobile in the pocket, they're moving around in there or trying to scramble, I tend to miss them a lot. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that you can get roughing the passer in this game. So what you can do is that you can just click off, and so the pursuit will be much better, in my opinion. I think the AI pursuit in this case is just better than me. And then you'll avoid any sort of possibility of getting roughing the passer. So once you win here, then you just go ahead and click off, and I think that's also just the fastest and most successful way of doing that. But if you have, and by the way, his X factor is on right now, but it really doesn't matter because we're going to win every single time anyway. If you do have strip specialist on your guy, you won't want to necessarily click off because you'll want to win that, and then you'll want to engage there and just take the ball out of the quarterback's hand and go in on offense. So those are just some of the general things to consider there, and I think I went over a lot of them already in the previous video, but it's a good reminder. This is still very much something that you can use. I think it's really, really, really effective in this game. But when it comes to a blocked running back, you can win still, but then it's hard to kind of evade that guy because I think he does a pretty good job of picking you up after you win. But one way we can get around him is the bull rush. I think that's the best move to use against the running back, and you don't even have to worry if you have a high finesse move guy with only like 60, 70 power move. The running backs will have such low pass protection that doesn't matter anyway. So you can just bull rush through them and get to the quarterback consistently from there. It'll add a second or two to your entire time to sack. But without the running back, that means they have fewer options in the quick game, which means by nature of them having that guy blocking, they'll be looking a little bit more downfield. And because of that, you will have more time to get to the quarterback. So I think those kind of offset. And then this is a consistent way of doing that. So what'll happen here, you beat him, bull rush the running back, and you get right to the quarterback. Now again, Garrett has all sorts of X factors and abilities going on here, but you can do just a plain old good, solid defensive lineman, and you'll be totally fine there. The other thing is, if you don't want to get mixed up in that, you can also do what this video is about, which is the club and scrub. So essentially what you'll do is you are containing your defensive ends, which you'll want to do anyway because you're getting the pressure up the middle. You don't need that added pressure from the edges, but you do want to have contain, right? So if you're pushing the pocket through the middle, you're getting after the quarterback, you don't want them to escape outside the left or to the right, so you want to contain. And usually, this guy, we don't need him. He's completely useless. So I'll usually have him in some sort of coverage. But again, that's something to get into in the full defensive scheme. Right here, we're just talking about the pass rush. But what we'll do, and this is a technique that you have to really get down. But once you win your initial double team, then you're going to switch players. And how it works is that usually it just goes to the left defensive end. And he will be in a contain, but you can kind of disengage from the tackle and run around and get at the quarterback. Now you'll have this guy free and this guy free, and the running back can only block one of those guys, and so you'll be good. So how it works, again, I'll win here, and then I'll disengage over here, and then get at the quarterback. Now again, it is something you have to practice a little bit. There I disengaged and I kind of re-engaged with the tackle, but if you just take a little bit of a wider stance on it, you can get to the quarterback. And how I like to have fun with it, even when they're not blocking the running back. I mentioned earlier you want to click off anyway in some certain situations where you want the guy to take a direct path at the quarterback. Sometimes I like to win here and then see if I can beat the defensive tackle. And usually I don't, but sometimes it's fun to do. But again, it really depends on timing and a little bit of patience. Like even after you win that initial move, you want to wait a bit of a split second or so, because in some cases you win before this guy ever even engages with the tackle, and in that case it just kind of screws everything up. So just develop the timing a little bit. Practice in game, of course, especially against maybe a bad player and you're kind of at the point where they're just chucking it play after play. Great time to practice that. And I think it's a terrific technique even to use against the better guys. And then so what you'll have is those two guys free, plus you'll have the contain on this side as well. So if they manage to escape these guys over here, they just essentially run right into this guy. This guy's an extra man in coverage, and it just makes things really, really, really difficult. I should say, though, that sometimes the player switch might put you on this guy. I'm not sure why, but sometimes, rarely it does. So just keep that in mind. If you get switched over to this guy, then you'll want to disengage and peel off on that side. But what's also good about this is that if you lose for whatever reason, so if they have a post up on the center or on the guard, or you miss time, your pass rush move from this interior guy, you can still disengage with this guy and come in. So let's say for the time being right now, we don't have the back in protection, and let's pretend, I'm just not going to use the rush move, but if I just lose here, I can still disengage over here and go sack the quarterback. Or if they are blocking the running back and I lose here, disengage here, I can still bull rush that guy and get to the quarterback. So really what it is just a way to, again, bypass the running back if he's blocking, plus it's really just a second option if your first option breaks down. So if for whatever reason he doesn't get through, usually I'll just click off and try to disengage with the contain guys and then come in from there. And then again, you always have that option to bull rush the running back as well. So really, really, really nice things. You also can, you can do this, like I mentioned at the start of the video, attacking the outside shoulder of the guard. So if they do have a post up at center, you don't want to be doing a double team right there. So, you need to wait a little bit more here, but yeah, you do the same thing essentially, and then come in from there. So that's pretty much that. I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but just getting that muscle memory, getting that practice down, does take a little bit of work, but I think it's definitely worth it in the end. In case you missed it, the moves are the club or the swim move. Same move, I think it just depends on what their rating is. It's just a flick of the left stick or the right stick. I usually just flick it towards the center. I don't think it really matters, but that's just what I've been doing as a habit. And then to peel off and disengage from the tackle, it's pretty intuitive. You just move away from him and then go around him. Nothing to really explain there. And then the bull rush is down on the right stick once you get to the running back. And then if you have strip specialist, it's just R1 once you get to the quarterback. So probably something I should have said at the beginning, but it is what it is. Anyway, so yeah, that's that. Definitely use that. Really, really effective still. I think some people maybe thought it was patched out of the game or something, but it's definitely very much a thing. And then if you want that full kind of defensive scheme based off of this, how you can play the run from this position, how you can defend certain things in coverage. We can look again at cover 4 cross, the different ways of running match quarters, cover 2, when to mix that in, and different forms of man coverage. It all fits into this nice, concise, and simple package that allows you to throw everything that you can possibly have at the opponent. Okay, so that's it for this one, and I'll see you in hopefully the next one.